Hey you guys, I'm gonna be doing my first ever Q&A. I didn't I didn't know what the best way was to do this or to record it, so I'm literally just gonna be reading these questions off of Instagram as the video is going, and if I need to fill up more space, I'll just ask more questions from you guys later. So, I guess for this video, just to explain what I'm drawing real quick, this is just kind of like a freehand sketch that I didn't end up using a reference for. I'm really happy with how it came out. But I just wanted to make something for Society 6 because I guess the resolution has to be a certain quality, and I can't really just take pictures of my graphite artwork and then like the resolution just hasn't been big enough. It's a big boring problem. Anyways, let's get into questions. The first question is from Gray Goldfish on Instagram, and they wanted to know what kind of style did you begin doing art seriously with, more cartoony side or realism. So I actually started off drawing as a little kid. My mom, we would always kind of like just collect magazines, probably from like doctor's office visits or whatever. We would always just have a shit ton of them in the house. And so we would have like Vogues or, whatever. And I would just flip through there and find people that I thought, their image I thought would be interesting as a picture. And I would just literally copy it. So I actually started out with realism because all I kind of knew of art, like I've never had any formal training. So all I knew of art was to just look at a picture and do my best to reproduce it. And that's honestly how I've learned everything that I've learned up until now. I feel like I didn't start getting serious with cartoony art until I moved up to Washington around 2015, and then I don't know, I had just gotten out of a breakup, really long-term relationship that had kind of drained me of any creative wants at all. And so finally, once that breakup had ended, I feel like I was able to just really be me and like kind of just come into my own with my art style. And I think that's probably what influenced that the most, is just that change. Next question, let's see, is from Lex's le.xs. Oh my god, that is a tongue twister. le.xs. That sounds like excess. Anyways, they said, who are some of your favorite artists, music, art, all forms, and what are some of your favorite films? Some of my favorite artists would have to be, that's such a tough question because I don't really think I have a favorite artist because I just get joy in general out of looking at art, so it's hard to, I can't really determine why I like looking at something. Like, it's just because it's something that was created by somebody, and that in itself is just intriguing to me. But I guess if I had to answer that question, without question, one of my favorite artists is Octoplum, Paloma Smith. She is just a really sweet person and genuinely talented, like talented to a degree that is inhuman almost. Like the way that if you've never, I'm sure that you guys all know who Octoplum is by now, but if you don't, really you need to go check them out. Like their sculptures are just out of this world beautiful. Music wise, some of my favorite artists are my little brother. After he passed away, I kind of started lurking on his Twitter, and like through that I ended up finding a bunch of different artists, like Zach Valaire, who's another one, Nick Hakim, Green Twins. That album is insane. Like it's literally one of the best albums I've ever heard. And I have a habit when I find something that I like of just replaying it on loop over and over and over again until I can't listen to it anymore. And I've been doing that with Green Twins, and I'm still not sick of it, and it's been a good few months now. So he's probably one of my favorite artists right now. Another one of my daily go-to artists would probably be, Greta Van Fleet. Oliver introduced me to them. It's a band of like, they're very reminiscent of Led Zeppelin, they've been compared to, but they're literally all teenagers. Like they're all 18-year-old kids, which is just, being 26 is just infuriating to me when people who are younger than me are that talented already, because it did take me like a decent while to get to where I'm at right now. It's definitely like was hard work on top of like my mom being an artist that led me to being where I'm at right now. Favorite movies, probably one of my all-time favorite movies and books actually is White Oleander. And I had a relatively difficult childhood. Not any worse or better off than anybody else's. It's just it was just difficult in its own right. So for some reason, I was always drawn to movies like that where they were just a little bit darker. Like 13 was also one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. I guess if we were going with a current film that's my favorite movie, I don't know. We'll leave it at those. We'll leave it at those. I don't really watch movies too often. I've never been a big movie buff. If you like foreign films or French films, one of my favorite is shit. How's it? I can't remember. I think it's Le Poupée Russe or something like that. The Russian dolls. Russian dolls. I cannot. I'm probably just butcher that pronunciation, but it's the Russian dolls. And then there's another one, L'Auberge Espagnole, I think. They're really good. Just look those up. If you like foreign films, definitely look those up. Okay, on to the next question. Let's see what we have here. This is probably, I probably could have done, I wanted to write these all down, but, you know, I'm not. Okay, alright, here we go. So this question is from Darian Acevedo, and there's like a point between the names. They wanted to know, are you self-taught? How did you learn hatching/cross hatching? Because they said they have trouble with it. So the way I started with hatching, first to answer your first question, am I self-taught? Yes, I am self-taught. The way that I started learning to draw was how I said earlier, is I would just copy magazines or just use reference photos really heavily until I kind of got it. But more recently, I've been using YouTube a lot. Like, I really recommend looking up drawing tutorials on YouTube. There's a YouTuber, Cynic's Design, that I always say in my videos if I'm talking about time-lapse or tutorials or anything. They're just incredible, like really user-friendly, really straightforward kind of videos. And then what was the second half of your question? Oh, how did I learn hatching and cross-hatching? So there's, I think their name is Lea Nehan. I'll add a little link to their, or I'll add what their YouTube or their Instagram handle is when I edit this video. But they were one of the first artists that I saw when I was around like 19 or 20, I think, that inspired me to try and get into hatching. It had never really piqued my interest. Like, I kind of learned it in passing in AP Studio Art in high school, but it had never really been a thing I wanted to do. But somewhere along the lines, I think I actually started off with squiggle lines. I'll try and insert a photo here of what I mean. But like to get shading in certain spots, like I would kind of just zigzag my pencil, and that's how I got started out doing hatching. I think the trick with hatching is that I've noticed anyways, is to try and, it's hard to see like a 3D form if you just have the outline of something that you're trying to draw. But what I learned with it is that you kind of want to try and not keep the line entirely straight. Like, you want to keep a nice distance between the lines is the most important thing, and that's going to keep it looking neat, is to try and like keep that distance between your lines the same. But if there's kind of a bend or something in what you're putting the hatching shadow on, you kind of want to follow the curve of that arm rather than just drawing like a completely straight line, like a completely diagonal line. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I found like if I'm having like a rough day drawing, or I'm having a hard time getting the hatching lines to look how I want them to, it's usually because I'm drawing them a little bit too straight and there's not enough of a bend to the line. I don't know if that makes any sense. I hope it does. Let's see here. I gotta sip my coffee. Okay, next question is from Night on the Sun. They wanted to know, how many years have you had this account? And they said beautiful count of yours, so thank you. I appreciate that. So I think if I scroll all the way back to the beginning on my Instagram account, I've had this account for a really long time, and it started off as just like my personal Instagram account. And then, like I said, when I moved up to Washington, I was working as a cardiac monitor technician. And that's basically like everybody's ECG monitor that's being plugged into the hospital. Basically, it all is going up to this like central command station where you can see everybody's heart rate, basically. So you'll be watching like the heart rates of about like, I don't know, like 50 patients or so, and you just let the nurses or the doctors know like if anyone's going into cardiac arrest, yada yada yada. Okay, so that's what I was doing. And in that job, it was a 12-hour night shift, so I ended up having, it was basically a desk job, so I would have a lot of free time. So when I moved up here, I would literally just be drawing for 12 hours straight, essentially. Like, I'd do all my charting and then just keep an eye on the monitors. But most of the time, you know, you're not really doing anything. You're just kind of babysitting everyone's heart rhythms. So I would just be drawing. And I think that was when, I want to say 2015. The account actually took off when I was at work one day. Like, it had changed. I noticed it had gone from being just my personal account to becoming an art account when I drew a picture of Willow Smith and Jaden Smith. And then my friend Timmy I was like talking to him about wanting to try and like make my art my career. And he was saying that he noticed this thing where people, you know, had been tagging celebrities and celebrities would repost fan art. And that's actually how I started collecting supporters, I guess I would say. And so I would just tag them and get the people who were supporting me on Instagram to like help me tag them. And that honestly was the basis of it. Let me see. I feel like there was another part to that question. I accidentally scrolled out of it because I'm a dingus. Actually, no, I'm not a dingus. I was just trying to scroll back to the beginning. Oh, oh my love, oh my darling. Oh, there's a question. Somebody asked me if I was gonna sell pop sockets. What the hell is a pop socket? I really don't know what that is. Like, I feel like I'm getting into this phase where I'm not old. I don't think I'm old at all, but I'm getting into a phase of life where I'm becoming irrelevant or like I'm no longer in on like what's the hip lingo. So I don't know what a pop socket is. If somebody could please tell me. If they're easy to make, I might try and make them. Let's see. Elfie Morse Art, Elfie ELFIE MORSE_art asked, do you have any of your own little personal art hacks that you've discovered? I probably do, but it's hard to determine what they would be right now. Like, I would have to be drawing in order to realize what they are. I would say one of my biggest art hacks that I've discovered, I'm very heavy-handed, and so I end up smudging graphite a lot, like, and it becomes really messy. Like, if you ever were like in person watching me draw, like, I would just have graphite smudged all over the side of my hand. So I know that there's the hack to just put down a piece of paper, but for some reason I feel like I can't get a straight enough line if my hand is dragging on a piece of paper as opposed to, like, on a piece of paper that's layered on top as opposed to just dragging on what I'm drawing on. So I guess my own art hack is, if you have an issue smudging like that, like, don't freak out about it and don't, you know, stress about it ruining your art, because it's not going to. Like, I've noticed that it just adds more definition to your art, basically, so you can use it as an added shadow. So if I ever smudge, then what I do is I go in with an eraser at the end and I kind of erase around the outline, like anything that's clearly not supposed to be there on the background. And then within the image, if I've smudged on the face or in the hands or anything, I'll kind of just go back in with my eraser and then erase out highlights within the drawing. So I think my biggest art hack and biggest tip to you guys would be, if there's something within your art that you're having a hard time with, or that you think you don't like how it looks, or you want it to be a bit better, just try to start working with that. It just makes, I don't know, it just makes the process of creating art a lot more enjoyable, at least to me anyways. So that would be probably the biggest art hack, is just like, let your style work for you. Don't have it be anybody else's. Deja Mina asked me, how do you stay motivated to draw on a daily basis? I don't. Actually, it's just something that, like, I've always had to do. I can't really not draw. So I guess that's the simplest way I could answer that question. Okay, so that's gonna be it for this video, but I will be answering more questions, so stay tuned, you guys. Until next time.